Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. Today I'm actually joined by Dougie Critchley and Zac Jalab. How are you, boys?
Good, thank you, mate.
Good,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Christopher Hamill has come down with a mystery illness.
No COVID, though.
At this stage, we don't believe it's COVID-19. And Patrick Van Straten is away today, so they're not able to join us. But I wanted to just quickly bring something up before we get into the show. We heard your comments last week about shooting it too early in the week. So we are going to be moving it closer to the weekend. And from next week, we're back in the pub. So hopefully that gives everybody at home something to look forward to. But let's just crack on with the questions. Because Big Do Black has the first one. He says, thoughts on Suarez going to Atletico Madrid. Now, off the back of that, I thought it'd be interesting just to talk about some of the surprise moves that have really shocked us in this window. Because there's been quite a few, I think it's fair to say. And this is definitely one of them, isn't it, Jalab?
Yeah, indeed it is. I think if you'd said it at the beginning of the window, none of us would have quite believed you. Weirdly, Suarez has had a good campaign. He's probably going to go down as at least a Barcelona legend for what he's done for the club.
Definitely a Barcelona legend.
And it's kind of sad now to see MSN truly end. It was Neymar that left a few seasons ago. Now it looks like Suarez is going to be joining Atleti as well. And look, obviously we know his move to Juventus in the end broke down. So it's no surprise that Barcelona do want to get rid of him. And in order to do that, they needed a club to take him, and so Atleti is a weird one. And I think what's even weirder is the idea of him playing up front with Diego Costa, because both of them in their prime is unbelievable. Like the amount of housery that could be going on with them two up front, it is ridiculous. However, both also suffer from injuries quite bad, and so I do worry that there is an issue where come say, I don't know, January, then Atleti just aren't going to have two strikers. The two strikers that they've got aren't going to be playing for the club. Because of this, we've also then seen Morata go on loan to Juve. So, we kind of hope the best for him, because he's not had the best time since really leaving Juve. He came to Chelsea, was a bit of a mess, then went to Atleti, was a bit of a mess. And now he's good.
Don't tell that to Pato. Don't tell that to Pato. Pato still thinks he's well classed.
Well, we'll see at Juve. I mean, if he can't do it in the Serie A, where can he do it? Come on. But yeah, I mean, he's had a few. He's had a bit of a rough time with injuries. But as for Suarez, look, on his day, Suarez can still do it. He is getting on now. He is into his 30s. But on his day, he can be a player that really does light up the game. A player that can, if you need a goal from somewhere, take it on his shoulders and kind of lead the team. And to a part, maybe that's what Atleti need. They need, instead of someone like Morata, who at times isn't kind of fierce when he needs to be, at times when he isn't necessarily the guy that they need, Suarez can try and take up the mantle. I'm just worried about Suarez's injury record and how long he can kind of last and how many games he can play in a season now. But then maybe Atleti will kind of rotate him with Costa, which might be the best for both worlds.
I think if you're going to sign Luis Suarez, he's going to want to play every minute of every game. I think the more worrying thing is that season on season, he's just dropping off slowly every single year. I think if you go back to when he scored that 40-goal season, he's gone gradually downhill in terms of goals every single year. And Atleti's top scorer last season was Morata with 12. And I think behind him was João Felix with 6. So they need somebody who's going to come in and bang 20 goals a season for him, in my opinion. And is Luis Suarez going to improve on last season's goal tally of 16 at Atletico Madrid in a defensive system under Simeone? Not for me. I think this is a bit of a weird one. I get that it's like that sort of warrior spirit that Simeone wants, and he's going to battle for every ball, and he's going to be a bastard on the pitch. But I'm not overly sure he improves on the 16 goals last season. I wouldn't be surprised to see a further drop off down to sort of Morata's numbers, which isn't going to take Atletico up to title contenders for me.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree as well, to be honest. I think on the basis of next season, I think it's quite an interesting move in that I back Suarez to score more than Morata next year. But then going forward, he's already 33. Going forward, that's only going to get worse and worse. And they've basically given an agreement to Juve where it's a sort of 1 year loan with an option to extend, but they can sign him next summer for 41 million euros. and then the following year for 34 million euros. So
Cheap and
with
Chelsea's
those agreements like already nailed in, it feels like Atleti are sort of giving up on Morata, which is incredibly weird considering that the money they paid to Chelsea only went through earlier this summer, or at least the final amount of it, and then they've just paid that and offloaded him. So Atleti, in terms of their transfer business over the last few years, Diego Costa big money, Vitolo big money, Thomas Lemar big money, Morata big money, none of which have worked out properly. And I think Morata is a useful squad player. I don't think he's ever going to be the player that everyone thought he could have been when he was breaking through at Real Madrid and then when he played reasonably well off the bench at Juve. He's still very good in the air, but his one-on-one finishing is really disappointing, to be honest. And I don't think he's it's a sort of signing both ways that leaves me a bit sort of like, meh. I'm just not particularly excited for Juve or Atleti. It's just a bit of a nothing deal for me.
I can see Morata succeeding at Juve. Like, he had a good time the last time he was there. The issue is, ever since that back injury...
But he's not going to start. He's never going to play. He's never going to play up front as an out-and-out 9. Ronaldo is never going to give up that position.
Sure. I mean, it depends what
formation they play.
Favorite formation is like. I mean, he's only started managing like a month ago, so he'll figure out over the next few weeks. The thing is, right, Morata has the ability. It was before the game against Manchester United when he got that back injury. He was class. He was so good, and then ever since then, it kind of went downhill. And as I said, like I do really think if he doesn't succeed with Juve in Serie A, then I really don't think he can succeed anywhere. And Juve spending 41 million euros on him is or possibly 41 million euros is a big fee to pay for a striker who isn't starting then.
Do you think it's a risk for Ronald Koeman? Because obviously Koeman's come into the club and he's very clearly trying to stamp his authority on this team, isn't he? He's got Messi back into the fold, somewhat against his will. He said, Suarez, you're out. Interestingly, we've seen sort of Ricky Puig also being pushed out of the squad.
Yeah, he wants to give him a loan move, doesn't he?
I'm not entirely sure that's the right move. I think that has irritated a lot of Barcelona fans, rightly so, very, very quickly. But do you think Luis Suarez being pushed out of the side is a bit of a risk, given that they don't really have a recognised out-and-out goal-scoring number 9 to replace him, other than maybe Griezmann, although Griezmann kind of featured from the flank. I don't know whether he's the man to lead them through the middle. Yeah,
they kind of had to commit to the Griezmann deal because it wasn't working last year when they were playing him out on the left. 120 million euros. They've got 2 years, maybe 3 years left of Griezmann being a top performer, so they've got to play him centrally. But Griezmann's probably at his best when he's playing with a link-up man up front. I mean, we've seen him play his best football probably for France in the last few years, playing off Giroud with Mbappe running alongside him as well. So I think they've basically gone, this signing has to work because we're not going to be able to shift Griezmann. We're already struggling to shift Dembele. Coutinho now looks like he's being brought into the fold. And actually, if they manage, they've now managed to offload quite a few players, Barcelona, and Vidal, Rakitic, etc.
Yeah.
And if they manage to bring in Depay as well, their forward line's not looking too bad. So it's a bit of a messy end to a legend, and I think it shows a bit of a lack of class the way they've treated Suarez, but it probably had to be done in the next 2 years.
Definitely, I think
Do you think Memphis Depay could potentially play through the middle? Because I've seen him play there a number of times for Holland under Ronald Koeman, and I wonder whether that's the plan.
Yeah.
Play Memphis Depay as a 9.
Well, they were initially looking at Lautaro Martinez to do that, and apparently Depay was their backup for Martinez, which for me is a slightly weird one because Depay I think is at his best on the left, but can play centrally. So it just gives them another option, really.
Yeah, they might even go. They might even use him at false 9. They might use him at false 9, which he has done too. I think for Ronald Koeman though, he signed a short-term contract, so for him it's kind of try and get as much as I can do within the year and try and convince Messi to stay longer.
Yeah, I agree. Any other movers and shakers then, Dukes, you want to mention? I've got written down in front of me Sorloth, which is an interesting shout.
It's kind of weird. Like, if you haven't been following Sorloth over the last year, you might be quite sort of bemused about why we're dedicating a whole section to him on Sunday Vibes. But in the last week or two, Sorloth has been everywhere in the news. Like, he's been linked with Spurs. There was even talk about Man United briefly, although I think that was just paper talk. And now he's just joined RB Leipzig for a fee of around £20 million. Now, he's obviously was a Crystal Palace player, but he spent last year on loan in the Turkish Super League, where he claimed the Golden Boot playing for Trabzonspor. He got 24 league goals. In all competitions, 33 in 44. Now, Trabzonspor were banned from European football next year, despite finishing second to Istanbul Başakşehir. I think I'm saying that right. So they were banned for financial fair play.
Good
And
effort.
he was now like, I want to play Champions League football. RB Leipzig, they've obviously lost Timo Werner. They've obviously didn't manage to bring in Patrick Schick as well. So they needed another number 9 or someone who could play up front, and they've gone for Sorloth. Now, some people, particularly fans of Crystal Palace, might see this as a bit of a risk. He obviously arrived in January 2018. I think he made 16 appearances for them, only scored 1 goal in the League Cup, played less than 500 minutes, and although I was reading the Athletics article about him, and they actually, the Crystal Palace fan or writer that was writing about him actually said he started pretty well. He had a goal chalked off in the Premier League, I think against Chelsea actually, and then really struggled to sort of nail down a starting spot. I mean, he was brought in to sort of complement Benteke. Benteke was going through a really difficult period, as he has been for the last sort of 3 years. The mystery about what happened to Christian Benteke is one of the great, one of life's great unsolved mysteries, really. He then was loaned to Ghent in January 2019. So he only lasted 1 year at Palace, got 4 goals in 19 appearances, and then loaned to Trabzonspor last term, which was initially supposed to be for 2 years. And he absolutely smashed it. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of him last year, but I was watching some highlights of him this morning. And he's 6'4", he's incredibly fast, he's got a lethal left foot. Very different style of striker to Timo Werner, in that Timo Werner would really start on the left for Nagelsmann's side last year, quite in a deep position. Nagelsmann actually encouraged him, from what I read, to come a lot deeper to collect the ball so he could get up, player 1-2, and then once Timo Werner's got a head of steam up, it's really difficult to stop him. Over 60 metres, there's not that many faster than in world football.
Big claim from Zac under the breath there, fastest player in the league.
Yeah, honestly, I think
he has looked sharp for Chelsea so far. I think it looks really exciting. But anyway, back to Sorloth. This is now the 6th different league he's played in at the age of 24. He's only really shone at Trabzonspor, so I think it is a bit of a risk. He's also their 3rd most expensive signing of all time, behind Naby Keita and Dani Olmo. It's big commitment to this Norwegian player who's played really well for Norway. To be fair, I think the future of him and Haaland up front for Norway is pretty terrifying, really. But he now needs to do it in a top 5 league, and I think he'll be slowly eased in. But if he can link up anywhere close to what Werner did with Poulsen next year, then RB Leipzig could have got a bit of a steal.
Have you ever heard of the Neil Warnock quote about him?
Yeah, about how he could have played the kit man.
Well, yeah. He said, if you've seen him train, I'd rather play the kit man.
I think that he got carried away on TV, to be honest, Big Neil, because you can see his face just light up. He was just ready for the gag.
I do think it's an interesting one, though, the Crystal Palace sale, because obviously they're so desperate for a goal-scoring number 9, and have been so desperate for a goal-scoring number 9 for so many years now. And I know that Ayew, on his day, actually is pretty shut up, and obviously gave Man United the runaround last weekend, and Zaha, when he's played through the middle, causes problems, but I still don't feel like they've got the goal scorer in that project. And they've obviously bought Batshuayi in on loan. But Jalab, do you think Batshuayi is the goal scorer that's going to take Palace to the next level?
I think it's hard to talk about Batshuayi because he hasn't played a lot of football over the past year, if not 2 years, really. When he has had some loans, like when he was at Dortmund, he was really good. I know the Palace fans love him. They're one of the fan favourites of him. And that's kind of why he went back to Palace, due to the love that he's got there. I think at the moment the reason he hasn't started or started in the Prem anyway is due to fitness. I think they're trying to get him up to match fitness, and then he most likely will probably start through the middle. But look, for Batshuayi, it's never going to work out at Chelsea. He definitely has quality. I mean, he's starting for Belgium at times, so he's definitely highly rated in some people's books. The issue is he is a good in the box finisher. He is a very good poacher in the box. The thing for, say, with Chelsea was he wasn't the best at build-up play. Sometimes when he'd be holding up the ball, it wasn't that great. But sometimes I also put that down to the fact he's just not played. It takes time to get up to full match fitness, and if you're only playing in a Carabao Cup game against a low league side, a Championship side or something, it's rough. Like you can't fully get into it. Everyone always says that there's only so much training does for you. It's the matches where where it really shows. So I think there's potential. He had a good time the last time he was at Crystal Palace. it's just whether he can continue to do that. Because I do think there is a player in there. I don't necessarily think there's a player in there that's going to be playing for a top 4 club week in, week out, that is, especially with what Chelsea have done in the transfer window. But if he has a good time at Crystal Palace, then a few people might be looking into him. And as for Sorloth going to RB Leipzig, like if you look at most of RB Leipzig transfers, a lot of them have gone right. So
don't get many wrong.
Yeah, I'd rather trust their opinion than mine.
Definitely, their scouting seems really effective. And actually, from everything I read about him at Crystal Palace, his attitude was very good in training. He just struggled in a very sort of defensive Palace side at that time. It was Milivojevic who was their top scorer with about 10 penalties that year, and they really struggled for any creativity. But Sorloth last year, 8 assists, similar aerial dual success rate to that of Andy Carroll, 6'4", lethal left foot, looks pretty quick as well. Yeah. So I kind of back RB Leipzig to get this right, but it does feel like a bit of a risk, and Crystal Palace fans might be slightly bemused that a player that really struggled for them, played less than 500 minutes, as I said, is now playing for one of the best sides in Germany.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll move on to another one that shocked me then. I think this is the most shocking transfer of the window, James Rodriguez to Everton.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
then also at the same time, it isn't so shocking, is it? Like, we know Carlo Ancelotti really likes him. He liked him when he was at Madrid, and then when he was at Napoli, it was no secret that he wanted to bring him to Napoli. And so when he went to Everton and this kind of came out, it was like, oh my God, like Everton want him. But then if you look further, it's actually Carlo Ancelotti wants him, which makes a lot more sense. And from the couple of games we've already seen, it looks like a worldie of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's been some turnaround, hasn't it, since that? I remember that miserable 1-0 Spurs defeat at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium back in July. I don't know if you guys remember that, where Everton were just shameful, really, and Gary Neville was absolutely hammering them in commentary.
It was my least favourite game of the season, I think, from both sides.
Yeah,
dreadful.
I looked actually at their midfield that day this morning, and it was Alex Iwobi, Gylfi Sigurdsson, Tom Davis, and Gomez, and I thought to myself,
still have all those,
the upgrades. The upgrades, though, in 3 of those 4 positions is really frightening, and they've done a fantastic piece of business, really, bringing 3 central midfielders in for as little as they did. Because if you actually look into the James Rodriguez deal, they didn't pay a transfer fee. Mental. It's for £0.
How?
Which is just absolutely mental, given that he's 29. I'd say his sort of market value is upwards of 30 million quid, isn't it? And people will say, oh, there was a fee, but it's actually been confirmed by his old club, Bamfield, who would have got a percentage of any future fee, that there was no money coming to them. So it seems like they've got him for £0. Obviously, his wages will be fairly hefty, but don't seem to have broken the books either. Like you said, I think Carlo Ancelotti is the main draw to the club, as he probably was for Alan as well. But, arriving on Goodison Park is James Rodriguez, who is nothing short of a world superstar in football. Let's have it right, especially in South America, in countries like Colombia. I'd imagine that Everton have a fairly decent support in Colombia already from Jerry Mina being there. But with James Rodriguez arriving at the club, it'll take it to the next level. I read an Athletic report yesterday about this move, saying that they had 400 million social media interactions in 24 hours. Wow. When he joined. I remember seeing the photos of James Rodriguez on a billboard in Times Square, in like Bogota.
Miami.
This is a big move for Everton, absolutely a monster move. And let's have it right, he has started the season, like you said there, Jalab, in hot form, hasn't he? Against Tottenham Hotspur, I thought he looked superb.
Yeah.
And I think Hamill brought it up on maybe Winners and Losers, or it might have just been on his Twitter, about his defensive work rate, putting 4 tackles and interceptions that day. But at the other end, where we want to see James creating chances, 5 key passes on the day against Tottenham Hotspur. That was the most of an Everton player since 2018. That was the most of a Premier League debutant since 2014. So he still got it, man. He still got it going forward. And at the weekend, he was so good against West Brom. Yeah. So good before he was hauled off at 78 minutes. I think in the first half, there were a few issues on that right-hand side. I was raising him in the Football Daily WhatsApp. I was saying this is a recipe for disaster against a good team, having 2 very attacking players in Coleman and in James exposed on that right-hand side. Because in transition, when West Brom got the ball and counter-attacked, they looked shaky in my opinion, and obviously went 1-0 down. Great goal from Diangana, and I think after the match, Ancelotti was like, we didn't get it right at all tactically in the first half. The right-hand side was exposed on the transition, and I think that's probably something he is going to have to look to address, whether or not Doucouré has to do a little bit more defensive work on the right-hand side of that midfield. I'm not too sure, but overall, what Rodriguez has done is he's raised the spirits of Everton so much that it now feels like a fresh start, when towards the back end of last season it was like, Christ, Everton, they are in a mess. And if you're Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, you're on cloud 9, aren't you? He scored a hat-trick at the weekend, of course, against West Brom. He's got James Rodriguez serving him 5 key passes a game. Richarlison the same as well. If Richarlison could finish his dinner, they'd be smashing teams. I think they put up 4 expected goals against West Brom. It's probably the best in about 20 years for Everton in terms of expected goals. So I just think this move is so much fun, and if he can get anywhere near sort of that output that he produced under Carlo at Bayern, we're in for a treat, and Everton fans should be absolutely buzzing about this one, right?
I think they should. The issue I have for Everton, I think defensively they're still a bit suspect. I think when Kieran Gibbs got sent off, it kind of allowed them to be attacking a lot more, because when he was on, as you said, they were causing a lot of issues down that right for them. He's also, James-wise, he's also started a really good relationship with Digne. Anytime he gets the ball, he's looking for Digne every single time.
Crossfield balls.
Yeah, crossfield balls. He loves the crossfield ball, James, to Digne. And obviously Digne, we know he has quality. Some of the balls he delivers is unbelievable. Think of the one against Tottenham. A fantastic cross into the box. And so, yeah, you're right. There's also just that star quality at Everton now that they didn't necessarily have maybe beforehand. They always had good players, but not necessarily players that were kind of, if they need something in the game to get them out of a rut, or they need someone to score for a 1-0 win or something. James is kind of that guy. It was a great finish against West Brom he got, and he looks class. My only worry for Everton is defensively. I'm not sure Seamus Coleman is that great at the moment, especially if he is having to do a lot more defending. If James isn't necessarily tracking back all the time with his pace, and I'm always questioning about Pickford as well. It can't help if you're the defence, if you're worried that if someone's going to have a 30-yard shot, it might go in. Sometimes I literally have no idea what Pickford is doing. I think at times he can be a class keeper, but there's the odd occasion he'll like, with the free kick, it was almost as if he pulled his arm back, and so that's my only issue for Everton on that side, is maybe a bit more defensively. I know Mason Holgate as well is currently injured, and he was kind of their starter before the season anyway. So there is definitely improvements on that side, but in an attacking sense, they're unbelievable at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other ones? I wanted to mention one that went through this week. Nelson Semedo to Wolves. Dude, what was your immediate thought about this one? Because this one to me felt like a weird one. The fee feels big.
Yeah, I mean, we were joking about it off camera beforehand. I think he's the 10th Portuguese player in Wolves' squad now, out of 25, which is just ridiculous, to be quite honest. I am not a massive fan of this deal in so much I'm not totally convinced on Semedo, the player. I think he's good enough for Wolves, clearly, but he wasn't good enough for Barcelona, either in an attacking sense. I think he only got about 2 assists in his last 2 years there, and wasn't solid enough defensively for me either. So needed to move on from Barcelona. But at Wolves, if he can play as a right back or a right wing back, allow Traoré to move further forward. And then they've suddenly got, Pedro Neto, Podence, who started the season on absolute fire.
Brilliant, man.
Got to say that when he joined Wolves, again, I wasn't totally convinced, so maybe just ignore what I say from now on, because his record at Olympiacos wasn't that impressive. But I saw some people linking him to Hazard on Twitter afterwards, and I was like, this is a bit too early for that. But there are sort of Hazard-ish elements to his play in terms of his sort of running style, in terms of his sort of tricks he's got. That De Bruyne nutmeg was absolutely beautiful. Then that curl cross for Raul Jimenez on Monday was just sublime. So Podence looks brilliant. And then Pedro Neto, they've got Fabio Silva as well to provide backup for Raul Jimenez, which was Again, I think a bit of an overpay, to be totally honest. But
another surprise move, to be fair.
Having had a tiny squad last year, Wolves have just added to their depth so much, and I could see them again pushing for Europa League places this year with ease.
Yeah, I think the Semedo move is particularly interesting because what he will be able to do at Wolves that he wasn't able to at Barcelona is really show what he can do in the attacking sense, because he's going to be a wing back. To be honest with you, at Wolves, isn't he? He's very unlikely to be playing as a static back four as he would at Barcelona. If he's a wing back, I'm really interested to see what he does going forward, because obviously Adama Traore is kind of in and out of that role. He seems to be owning that role at the moment, and paying such a big fee for a right back when Adama Traore is running your right flank, I just wonder if they're going to get in each other's way a little bit. Like Adama Traore wants. The reason I think Adama Traore likes to play in that role is because they can effectively leave him to it, and he can have so much space to beat men. If you've got a player overlapping him, sometimes it closes down the space and it allows another opposition defender to come across. So I don't know whether or not they'll play together. I'm really interested to see how this lines up. But nevertheless, you'd have to say Wolves' transition over the last sort of 5 years has just been remarkable, hasn't it? From going, I can't even remember who was their right back when they were in like League One, but to now signing Barcelona players. It might have been actually.
I think it was.
He might have done a double up, come up both seasons with them. But to go and sign Barcelona players is really something to behold, isn't it? This one's more of a rumour at current, but Wout Weghorst to Tottenham Hotspur, big 6'6" Wout. You might remember this one from the podcast.
Your favourite, Joe.
I love the big bastard. But do we think Tottenham still need a striker, given that Gareth Bale has joined the club? And there's quite a few questions been submitted as well about whether or not he's going to flop, how is he going to do, because we didn't really go into that much detail last week because we shot it so early the deal hadn't been confirmed.
Yes, they do still need a striker, 100%. I think you can't bank on the fact Bale will stay fit, and maybe he will, but he's currently injured. He's missed 61 games over the last 4 years, which is an entire season's worth of games. Hasn't played regularly for 12 months. You definitely need another striker in, and I think Weghorst, there's talk about Arkadiusz Milik as well, although his move to Roma supposedly fell through because of a medical issue, so who knows who Spurs bring in. But for me, they definitely need another striker. I don't know what you think, Zach.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, the worry with Bale is just how his injury record is going to, or how his injury time at Spurs is going to be, because on his day he is fantastic, and we've seen that more than enough times at Real Madrid. And the other issue as well is he really going to be playing him up front? Like, he was playing a bit more on the right, he's played on the left, and so I think he's more of a versatile player. What they do need is 100% an out-and-out striker for if Harry Kane is injured, or because Harry Kane can't continue to play every game. We've seen over the past few seasons what happens when he continues to play every game. In terms of whether Bale will be a success, really, I just don't know. Last season was so bad. It was so bad for him, like especially the second half of it, where he obviously fell out with Zinedine Zidane and just then sat on the bench for most of the games. And the pictures of him obviously doing the binocular stuff, as much as it's funny, it doesn't show a good relationship there for Real Madrid. So we can't really tell how his last season was. He scored not many goals, but I feel like the number's 2, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. And so we're going to have to see. I know it's going to take Spurs a little bit of time to probably get him back to match fitness. We may see him maybe like next week or something. And yeah, I don't think it can be bad. Like, they've not spent any money in terms of a transfer or a loan fee. They are paying, I think, like £200,000 of his wages or something. So I hope it goes well for him, but I actually just think it's too hard to call because you've just not seen enough of him over the past year.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm hoping he does well. Yeah. I really want Bale to do well. Definitely. I really like Gareth Bale, so fingers crossed for him. Let's move on to some quickfire questions then. This one was sent in by James Mallet, and he says, who can stop Kevin De Bruyne from winning back-to-back Player of the Year awards? Now, Carragher on Monday Night Football was really vocal about this. He said, if you've got Messi and Ronaldo in your top tier, Kevin De Bruyne is the best of the rest in world football. He said he is the best player in the Premier League, 100%. But who do we think could stop it happening?
Maybe Mohamed Salah. Maybe.
Okay.
I didn't actually think. I thought he was. I think the whole Liverpool squad were very good. I actually didn't think he was necessarily the standout against Chelsea. I thought Sadio Mane is. It seems to be one of those two every time. But if someone's going to win it, it'll be based on like scoring a ridiculous amount of goals, and so like maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin with the way he started. But I'm joking. But I think just the fact that KDB will be so high up if he doesn't get injured. That's the other thing, right? If KDB gets injured for a bit of time, then who knows? But if someone can get over maybe the 30 mark of goals, then you have to say, okay, this guy's a contender. The issue is there's a very good chance that De Bruyne could easily be something like 15, 16 goals and also like 19 assists in a season. Yeah. So it's hard. It's going to be really hard for whoever tries. But I think maybe Mohamed Salah if they go on an unbelievable streak again.
Dukes?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Zach, to be honest. I think KDB is just, I don't think it's massive difference between him and the likes of Salah, Virgil van Dijk, etc. But he is the best player in the league. I think if he plays the entire season, he'll probably be named Player of the Year again, as he should, because he is just a step above, in my opinion. I think if something crazy happens, like Aubameyang scores over 25 league goals, maybe he'll get it. If James Rodriguez continues this kind of form and everyone just loves watching him play so much, maybe he'll get it. If he ends up with, I don't know, 8 goals and 12 assists or something, it'll be, that's a phenomenal season for someone of his age at a club like Everton. So I think it'll be De Bruyne, but we'll see.
Yeah, I thought De Bruyne's position as well was really interesting against Wolves in that sort of 10 space, and that was kind of ominous.
Even
I think
scarier.
if he's going to play that advanced for this season, and Pep is going to opt for the two defensive midfielders of Fernandinho and Rodri, then he's going to score a lot of goals.
Absolutely. That first half, they were awesome.
Yeah, they were. And in the second half, they did get exposed a few times, it has to be said. But I think when Laporte comes back, a lot of those issues will be solved. I also think, though, when Laporte comes back, I don't think Pep will play the two DMs. I think it'll be a slight change there. So if that does happen, I would personally imagine that KDB will drop back into his more normal position. But if he plays the 10 the whole season, we're in for an absolute treat because he's just the best player in the league to watch. The next quickfire was sent in by Timo T. He says, can Aston Villa avoid a relegation battle? Now, of course, one against Sheffield United. Was that on Monday Night Football as well?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it? It's like 5:30 kickoff. Were you impressed by what you saw, Dukes, from Aston Villa? Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game. No, I did watch the game. No, not really, to be totally honest. I thought considering they're playing against 10 men after that ridiculous John Egan decision, poor guy, like Watkins has got his hand on him too. It's a 50-50 whether he even gets to the ball.
Never a red.
Yeah.
Sickening.
Ramsdale was coming off his line as well. I just didn't think it was a red card.
Did you think
I thought it was
Christensen
a yellow.
was a red?
I thought that was a red because Mane was much closer to the ball
Fair.
he rugby tackled him.
Yeah, it was a bit different.
So like I thought Christensen was a nailed on red, but Watkins, I didn't think he was. There was one guy that I was arguing with on WhatsApp, one of my mates, who was convinced that it was a red. But other than that, I think the whole football world was just like, what a bizarre decision. But yeah, after that, Aston Villa, I mean, it's difficult against Sheffield United. They're very well organised. They sat back, but actually broke really effectively and won that penalty as well. But Aston Villa really struggled to create much of note. I mean, it was a lot of just crosses hoofed into the box, wasn't it?
So many crosses.
And just relying on Jack Grealish for these moments of magic. And obviously it will take a while between Grealish and Watkins to get up to speed as well. Matty Cash looks like a step up at right back as well. So I'm pretty impressed with their business, but I think it's going to be a relegation battle again this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Any different opinion there, Zach?
I think they might be a bit more comfortable. I think they'll be a bit more comfortable. It won't come down to, say, like the final day or so, or the final couple of games. I think the players that they've brought in, I think Martinez, he saved the penalty essentially, so he's already helping them.
Good keeper.
Yeah, very good keeper. Thought he'd actually go to a higher up club, to be fair, possibly in Everton. And I think they've definitely got the players to kind of try and get a little bit higher up in the table. I think, yeah, if Ollie Watkins can form a good relationship with Grealish, and McGinn finds his form that he kind of originally had before injury, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I agree with Dudes. I think relegation battle for Aston Villa this season. I like their summer. I think like getting Grealish on a new deal, obviously bringing in Ollie Watkins, bringing in Matty Cash, quite a lot of pressure on him in that right back slot. But I just don't think, for me, they've upgraded the defence enough to keep him out of it. I'm not Tyrone Mings' biggest fan. I think that was potentially an area they could have improved. Esri Konsa seems okay back there. Matty Cash has a lot of pressure on him as an attacking fullback coming in to the Premier League. Matty Target. It is Matty Target, isn't it?
Yes.
I think that's an okay role for him. But overall, I just don't think they've upgraded the defence enough. But having said that, you never know. If Ollie Watkins starts slamming goals in, they might stand a chance. Let's do one last quickfire question then before we move on to personals. This one was sent in by Rodney Meneni. He says, which signing has been the best value for money across Europe's top 5 leagues so far this season? And there is only one answer for this. There's only one answer.
James Rodriguez.
No, absolutely Thiago.
Yeah.
Thiago, man. They're paying £5 million a season to have probably a top 5 in the world central midfielder. It's just ridiculous. Michael Edwards is just a genius.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous deal that he's managed to sort of stagger, as it were. I think one from the continent that I was writing about a couple of weeks ago is a guy called Sean Wiseman, who's gone to Real Valladolid from Wolfsburg in the Austrian league. He's 24. He got 30 goals in the league last year in 34 league games, with a few assists in there as well, and he cost just over £2 million. So even if he doesn't work out for Real Valladolid, like, it's such a gamble worth paying, and what an astute piece of business this could turn out to be. So Sean Wiseman, one to watch maybe.
I think James Rodriguez is probably definitely up there. I mean, paying nothing for him is unbelievable. Jude Bellingham, by the looks of it, has had an unbelievable start to life at Dortmund as well. So
do you think Thiago Silva could make a big difference on a free, Zach?
Yeah. I mean, if there's one issue Chelsea had last year, it was defensively, and so if we can bring in a guy who's at the Champions League final, who kind of brings that experience at the back, which maybe Chelsea lacked, or maybe not even maybe, definitely Chelsea lacked last season, then that can only be a good thing. Chelsea also have made a coach signing as well, who's really helped the kind of defensive structure that we have at the club. You kind of actually saw it a bit more against Liverpool. It was a bit different to kind of how we were playing last season, where we were kind of dominating the ball. We kind of let them have it. And so, yeah, I think he can make a difference, Thiago Silva. I mean, I think he's meant to be playing today again, or playing in the Carabao Cup against Barnsley. So hopefully we don't concede there. And I think Zuma's been pretty good as well. So that's the other kind of bit. If he can kind of also improve the other defenders whilst he's there by partnering them and giving them kind of the experience that he has, it'll be pretty good. And the other thing, like, I know he speaks French as well, so that'll be pretty good for Big Zoom.
Yeah, true. Right, let's finish with a personal question then. This one's sent in by Alex 450634456. Get all their numbers out your handle. They say, worst place for a weekend trip you've ever been to?
Jesus.
Tough question. I can jump straight in with Paris.
I don't know why you don't like Paris. I love Paris.
The Paris vendetta continues.
Mate. You hate Paris so much for one bad experience.
No, I've been there 3 times. I've not had a good experience.
What do you mean?
I've been to Paris on 3 separate occasions for 3 short visits. Each time it's got worse. I don't know what it is about the city, but I just can't get on with it. For me, it's Paris.
Mate, I love Paris, man. I went with Kieran for like 24 hours. Not on a date. We had to go for a trip for work. Jesus Christ, okay. Get it out. And yeah, I remember half the time we spent our time on Lime scooters, just traveling, going around Paris. It's absolutely lovely. One of my favourite places, to be fair.
Shocker. Not having it.
Worst trip. Oh God.
I had a bad experience in Budapest, but it wasn't really Budapest's fault. I got mugged, so I've sort of got a bit of a vendetta against Budapest. But that's not the place's fault. I'm sure it's a really nice place, but it does put you in a bit of a bad mood when something like that happens to you.
Definitely. I don't know, for me, Crawley for me. Wouldn't go there on the weekend if I were you, unless you want to go to Cineworld. Maybe
Cineworld, is that the highlight of Crawley?
Maybe watch the Crawley, football team. I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm
Jesus
alright.
Christ. All right, let's wrap it up there. Anyway, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Dougie, you got anything else you want to plug for Sunday?
Yes, go and check out the Football Pyramid on Eurofootball Daily, which dropped
yesterday.
Who have you robbed
this week?
Well, we're about to film it in about 40 minutes.
It's
Zach Jalab versus Michael McCubbin.
I have to
Big
say,
clash.
justice for Danny Pape definitely said at the same time as me. It's absolutely
No,
shocking.
even
No,
I'll
it
agree.
is.
I actually agree.
Absolutely
You said it
shocking.
first, Joe.
Put it
You
on
said first.
0.5 speed and you can hear Joe say it first.
You said it first.
I did appreciate, all the hate once again in the comments.
Yeah,
It's the
leave
most controversial
Diggy
quiz
alone.
show on YouTube at the moment. But yeah, go and check it out and show it some love because I'm sure Zac and McCubbs did very well.
I don't know.
Yes. All right, do you have anything to plug?
Check out Snapchat. Go, download the app. Then check us out on Snapchat.
Yeah. All right, thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.